Yeah, she's
I
like,
read the first three.
yeah, so I came down to the lecture.
Begin with 1.1. This is going to be a review of very basic graphing. Okay, and we'll finish this tonight because it's not very long at all. Okay, all right. So the first thing we want to do is we want to just go through and plot points. You got to start somewhere. I hope you remember how to plot points because you need to know how to do it when you graph. Okay, so we're just going to look at it, the x and y axis like you're familiar with, and then we're just going to quickly plot these points. So go ahead and start just plotting those points, and then we're going to label those. Just label each one with a letter. Okay, so this is on 1.1, the handout I gave you tonight. Okay, so if you plot -2, 0, that just means you're going left 2, and then you don't move up. Okay, so that would go there. Okay, you go to point B, that would be over 5 to the right, and you don't move up. And just label the letters by that. Point C would be going over 2 on X, and then up 4 on Y. And then part D is 0 and 9/2. 9/2 is 4.5. So this one you would be just simply going up 4.5 like that. So just kind of estimate where that is. That's point D. Okay, E is -2, 5. So let's left 2, up 5. Okay, and then F is -6, 4. So that's left 6 and up 4. Okay, and then we do the rest of them. G is -9, 0, so that's left 9. That's out of room, so I'll just throw a little extra notch there. And then H is -2, 0. So I think I already had that one, didn't I? So that one's also H. And then I is -2, -8 is left 2, down 8. So that's where that's located. And then J is -3, -9. So that's a little bit out of range, so I'll go like that. And then K is -4, -8, so that's left 4, down 8 like that. Okay, so that's what you have. Okay, does everybody remember how to plot points? Okay, I'm not going to spend any time on that. Okay, I was trying to draw that so it made something. I don't remember what it made. Does that look like anything to you? It doesn't matter. It's what?
I was quoting a movie.
Maybe it's like, I don't know. I thought I was going to make something out of that, but I guess I didn't. Okay, now next thing I want to do is we want to go through and we want to look at just doing basic graphs by doing a table of values. And then we're going to look at all kinds of different ways to graph in this class over the first couple of weeks. To start with, even though you might know a different way to do this, we're just going to do table of values in this section. And we're going to do a variety. So what we're going to do here is just pick a couple of numbers for x. Now from your background, do you guys know what that looks like? 5x by 6? It's a line. Okay, you may or may not know that. It's a line because a line looks like mx plus b. That's what line structure look like. And that's not that important right now. But for now, what I'm going to have you do is let's just pick some numbers. Let's pick like 0, 1, and 2. -1 and -2. So we're going to plug into the function and we're going to plot points. That's how we do our graphing tonight. So we're going to do 5 times -2 minus 6. That would work out to be -16. Then we're going to do 5 times -1 minus 6. So that's -11. And then 5 times 0 minus 6 is -6. And then plug in 1, so that's 5 times 1 minus 6, so that's -1. And then plug in the 2, you would have 5 times 2 minus 6, so that's equal to 4. So that's your arithmetic, okay? Now here's what happens on a line. You don't need to know this yet, but notice that these things are going up 1, right? What are these going up by? They're going up 5, aren't they? So anytime you have a line, if this goes up by some number, that goes up 1, then that's going to go up by some number. Okay, that's how lines work. Now let's just plot a few points and then connect the dots. That's what we're going to do tonight. So let's do the ones that fit. Okay, you could do 0, -6. So that's down there. You have 1, -1 is over 1, down 1. Then you have 2, 4, over 2, up 4. And then just connect those like that. That one is a straight line. And lines always look like this, where they have y equals a number times x, and then plus or minus some other number. Y equals mx plus b. You may know that from your background, okay? All right, so what you're doing on this particular section, when you do your graphs, you're going to do a table of values. And on My Math Lab, what they're going to do is they're going to have, you just fill in the table, and then you're going to plot the points. It's real easy to learn how to do that on My Math Lab, okay? So you'll be able to do that, I think, fine, okay? From your background, do you know what the graph of this one looks like? Guess what? It's a parabola. It looks like this. Okay, we're going to get to that later. If you don't remember these things, it doesn't matter now. It will eventually, though. So what we're going to do on this is we're just going to do a table of values. And we're just going to use real simple points. We're going to use like -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And for now, that's good enough. Okay, so what we do is we just do plug in. We do -2 squared minus 6. That's going to be 4 minus 6, so that's -2. You can do that. Oh, minus 6. Oops. Okay. That would be -2 squared minus 4. Okay. Okay, so we got -2 squared minus 4, so that's what? 0? Is that better? Okay, then we got -1 squared minus 4. That's -3. We have 0 squared minus 4, so that's -4. 1 squared minus 4 is -3, and then 2 squared minus 4 is 0 like that. Okay, now most of the arithmetic you can do in your head. Okay, you just want to crunch that out. Now what you want to go ahead and do is you want to plot your points, and then we'll connect this. So we have -2, 0 is a point. -1, -3 is left 1, down 3. 0, -4 is down 4. Then you plot 1, -3 over 1, down 3, 2, 0 like that. And then this one connects kind of like that. Okay, and we call that a parabola. Okay, and that's because it's a second power. The x has a second power on it. That's what makes it a parabola. Okay, so you guys get the gist of what I'm doing okay? Okay, so at this stage, we're just going to make tables of values. We're going to learn all kinds of things about graphing this semester, but this is where we want to start, okay? Let's do the same thing on this, okay? We're going to do a table of values. Okay, now I'm going to have x and y. Y is going to be negative absolute value of x minus 4. So let's see, on this one what I'm going to do is primarily I'm just going to do the same values, okay? The more values you get, the better off you are, but it's a good idea to usually try about 5. Okay, and then see if you get a shape. Okay, so this one you're going to have negative absolute value of -2 minus 4. This is where students slip up on this problem. Is this? Okay, is this part right here going to be 2 or is it going to be -2?
2.
-2. Because the absolute value of -2 is 2, right? And then that makes it negative again. A lot of times students see negative, negative, and they're thinking positive. It doesn't work on that way, because you're doing absolute value then attaching the negative. So this one is -2 minus 4, so it's -6, okay? All right, the next one is negative absolute value -1 minus 4. So again, that's -1 minus 4, so that's -5. And the next one is -0 minus 4. The absolute value of 0 is 0, so that's just 0 minus 4. So that will be -4 like that, okay? Then let's do the next one. We have negative absolute value of 1 minus 4. That's going to be -1 minus 4, so that's -5. And these things a lot of times have symmetry, and the next one is negative absolute value of 2 minus 4, so that's -6 like that. Okay, does everybody understand the arithmetic okay? If you got absolute value, be sure you do that, then attach the negative, like that. Now let's plot the points, and let's see what we came up with. It should be sort of a V shape. So you have -2, -6. You have -1, -5. 0, -4. 1, -5. And then 2, -6 like that. So your graph does that kind of thing like that. So what we learned in pre-calculus is that -4 right there took that whole shape down 4. that minus reflected that V shape upside down. That's kind of what we end up learning here in a few weeks once we look at functions. And you may have that background from high school, depends on you, okay? Okay, let's move to this next one. Okay, so I just want to do several of these because on your homework, you're just going to have generally something solved for y, and you make a table of values on. So this is x, and then this is y equals 1. Okay, now what's weird about this one is, what is the y value always going to be? Okay, because that's what it says. Y is 1. It can't change. There's no x to plug in. So what you'll end up having is your y values are always 1, and x can be whatever you want it to be, okay, because x is anything. So you could just go like -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2 like that, but the point is that y is always 1. So what would a graph look like if it was always up 1? What would the graph look like? Yeah, it'd look like that, okay? So you would end up just having on this one, when you plot these points are always just going to be up 1. So if you graph y equals 1, you just want to know that that's a horizontal line that goes through y equals 1 like that. That's what it means, okay? All right? Okay, let's do this one. I'm going to do one more of these with the table. This one's kind of weird. You have to this one we're going to use a calculator on a little bit. So we have x and we have y equals 1 over x. So what I'm going to do on this one to start with is we're going to start like with -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. That's always kind of a good standard too. You can always kind of start with those points like that. So if you plug this in, you would have 1 over -2. That's really -1/2, so you can write that as -0.5 if you want to, okay? The next one is 1 over -1, so that's -1, okay? The next one's 1 over 0. What does that tell you? It's undefined, okay? You don't have a point there, so that's undefined because you can't divide by 0. Then the next one would be 1 over 1, so that's 1. Then you'd have 1 over 2 would be 0.5 like that. Okay, now we're going to plot those points, and I'm going to kind of show you how this goes, and I'm going to do something with the calculator to help you understand how this goes a little further. So if you plot these points, it looks like you would have -2, -0.5. So that's a little dot right there. You'd have -1, -1 would be there. And then you don't have anything there. That's not a point. And then you would have 1, 1 is there. And then you would have 2.5 would be like that. Okay? If you did bring your graphing calculator tonight, then get that out. Because I'll use this to kind of help you make sense of how this graph goes. Okay? If you have a weak background with graphing calculators, that's something you want to come see me about. See me after class, come to my office hours, because some students have done everything with these and know more than I know, and then some students have never done much of this. Okay? So we're going to put y equals, press that, and then you're just going to put 1 over x. So we just put in 1 divided by x. This is your variable key right there. Okay, that will always type the variable for you like that. Okay, now if you want your window to go standard window means you would go -10 to 10 in both directions. So you have a window button that you can set that window on. Okay, now this one you don't need to do, because if you want this to be in a standard window, you can type zoom and then number 6. So you'll see me do that all the time. If I graph something and I want it in a standard window, I just go zoom 6, and then that'll graph that for me. Okay. Now we're going to sketch that graph, but I want to just use the calculator to talk about why this graph is doing what it's doing. So what's going to happen is this graph is going to turn up like that. It's not going to touch the y-axis at all. Then it's going to level off at the x-axis, but it won't touch the x-axis. And what happens here is kind of the same thing. That goes down like that. It just gets close to the y-axis and doesn't touch. Then it levels off like that. So let me show you a couple things on your graphing calculator here, okay, if you're not too familiar with it. So one thing is you can get a table of values like we're doing tonight. If you go second graph, that will open up a table of values, okay? And what that'll do is that'll just give you all these values. And I'm going to use this table of values to show you something on this. Okay, first of all, we have an error at 0. Why did that happen? Because you're undefined, right? Now look at these numbers. As x is getting bigger, what's happening to y? It's getting smaller. It's getting close to what number? 0. So the idea is the further out you go this way, the closer that gets to 0. That's how that works. And then if you scrolled up backwards like this, if you go like this, then you got a bunch of negative numbers. So if you look at those negative numbers, as you go this way, that thing's getting close to 0. But it's underneath the x-axis. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's what happens. Now let me show you why this thing goes to infinity. Okay, so here's what the idea is. And you talk about this kind of stuff a lot in calculus. We're doing 1 over x. So let's take a number that's barely bigger than 0. I'm going to do like 1 divided by 0.0001 like that. Okay, look what happens. You get a real big number. So the idea is when you do 1 divided by a number real close to 0, it shoots up there. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's what happens. And that's why that graph does what it does. Okay, in order to do that, some of these problems you'll be able to do fine by hand, but you can also do your graphing calculator. You want to know how to do both when you're learning this then. Okay. Okay, any questions about what we just did with graphs then? Is everybody okay with that? Okay. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit of definitions with intercepts. So we're going to talk about what we mean by a graph having an x and a y intercept. So first of all, an x-intercept would be something that looks like this. Okay, you have like an x value, and then you have a 0. Okay, so what that means is it just means the point is on the x-axis. And we've already plotted a couple of those tonight. An example might be something like -4, 0, or something like 2, 0. Okay, if you plotted those points, wouldn't they be directly on the x-axis? Yeah, okay, because you're not moving up on the y value, so that's what an x-intercept looks like. A y-intercept looks like this. X is 0, and y is whatever. Y can be anything. So as an example, you might have like 0, 8, or you might have something like 0, -5. If you plotted those points, how do you plot 0, 8? You just go up 8 and put a dot on the y-axis. So that's how y-intercepts look, and that's how x-intercepts look. Okay, so notice that on a y-intercept, x is 0. On an x-intercept, y is 0. Okay, so you want to know that and understand that. So one of the things we're going to do real quick on this is just identify the intercepts. You'll be able on the homework on 1.1, you probably will be able to be finished in like 15 minutes. I'm not kidding, because it's very short and it's real simple terminology. Okay, so how many intercepts do you see on this graph?
3.
There are 3. Okay, so basically you would have 2, 0, and -4, 0. Those are your x-intercepts, okay? So x-intercepts are -4, 0, and 2, 0. And then the y-intercept is this point, which is 0, -3. And that's it. So you want to know the terminology on that if you don't already know that. That's what intercepts are, okay? Okay, the next problem. How many intercepts does this have? There are 4. Now this is a circle. Okay, so it looks like the x-intercepts on here are going to be this point and this point. So that looks like that's going to be -5, 0, and 5, 0. And then the y-intercepts on this are going to be these 2 points. So that will be 0, 5, and also 0, -5 like that. Okay, so you want to be able to look at a graph and know what its intercepts are. Okay, that's it. Okay, all right. The other thing that you want to know, it's in a super short section, unlike these other review sections, is just be able to look at a graph and answer questions about it. So you want to be able to interpret graphs. So I want to show you a couple of things on this. So basically this graph, the x-axis is time, the y-axis is temperature. This is just showing how temperature changes during the day. Okay, so this kind of stuff right here is nothing to this. So what time does the highest temperature happen on this graph? 1 o'clock. Okay, there's your highest temperature right there. It looks like 79. So that's going to happen at, it looks like 1 p.m. Okay. Then the next one says, what temperature is recorded at 12 p.m.? What's that? 77 degrees. Okay. This is just interpretations you won't have any trouble with. Okay. Then the next thing says, during which hour did the temperature increase the most? Okay. Well, what we're kind of looking on that is, where did it jump the most? Okay. It looks to me like from 10 to 11, that's where you have the biggest rise, right? So to me, and that was worded kind of funny, so which hour did the temperature increase the most? I would say 11 o'clock, that's where you have the biggest increase, okay, depending on how you interpret that, okay? Or you could say the 10, to me it's like, I don't know, what are they asking by that? So you could say that 10 or 11, really what the big deal is between 10 and 11, that's where it rose the most, right? Okay, all right. Now, at what time was the temperature 72 degrees? That was at 9 a.m., okay? And then the next question, during which 2-hour period did the temperature increase the most? So you got to find a 2-hour period where it jumped the most. Where does that happen? Yeah, 9 to 11 right there, so that would be right in there, okay? Okay, so you got that. Interpreting. So when you start learning about graphs, you want to understand how to interpret, okay, doing basic things like that, okay? Okay, the next problems, I always like these problems. These problems are kind of, we didn't used to see problems like this, but this is really kind of cool because they're thoughtful and they see if students are on track with being able to take something and model it in the real world. Okay, so this problem says the amount of rainfall as a function of time, but it says the rain fell more and more softly as time went on. So if you were looking at this, this is kind of what's happening on this problem. Like that's time, and then this y-axis is the amount. Well, let's just kind of see what this one would be. This one right here means that over a certain amount of time, the amount is increasing at a steady rate, right? What does this mean right here, from here to here? Stopped raining, okay? There's no amount. And then what happens from here to here? Starts raining, but more heavily than this, right? Okay? So that is not the answer. What you're looking for is which one would be, it's raining the whole time, but what it's doing is more softly each time. So what do you think? B. Yeah, B makes a lot of sense. So this right here, basically the amount is getting bigger, but it's getting bigger at a slower rate. That's the idea. So that's the only one that makes any sense to me. What does this mean? Just means it's raining heavier and heavier and heavier forever, and the world's going to flood. Okay, that's what that means. So B would be, I think, the most logical answer on that then. Okay, I like these problems because they're kind of thoughtful and just kind of checking your skill. Okay, here's one. Okay, this says the height of an animal as a function of time. Okay, so this is an animal. Now we have to make some assumptions. Animal's born, animal grows up, animal dies. Right? Okay, we got to do that. So what does this one mean? Okay, this is time, that's height. So what is this? Animal's growing, it's born, so it's real small, it gets bigger and bigger. Now what's happening? It's shrinking. Okay, all right. This one right here, what does this mean? You're growing up, and then what happens? You reach a height, that's how it works, right? Now theoretically, actually, like the older you get, you shrink, you start shrinking. Okay, they say, because your bones start losing some of the mass, but that's good enough, okay? Like that, okay? That's the only one to me that would make any sense, okay? Like what would C be? You were born tall, and the rest of your life you shrunk, okay, like that, okay? Or D would mean you're born very small and you grow forever and ever and ever infinitely high. So that's it, okay? These things are kind of funny if you look at them that way. Okay, so that is all you do in that particular